for that to occur.
I didn't get to share. Oh, did you want me? Were we sharing while we were here, or are you already starting?
Sure,
We're
spit
getting
it out.
Oh, so I went through the coaching training with Dave at Bethel,
Okay.
and but I'm now the pastoral director at Upper Room Dallas.
Okay.
And I'm looking at bringing in coaching, like pastoral coaching, and
Okay.
wondering what that might look like. And I thought, when I got this email, I said, well, this might be what we're doing tonight. So
Great.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Jill.
Just want to welcome everyone. We're doing something tonight that I'm really excited about because I love encounter coaching. It's been personally helpful to me, as well as helpful in coaching that I do. And this is a leadership metaformation webinar for January, and it's called What is Encounter Coaching? And my name is Jill Williams, and I'm joined today with Tony Stoltzfus and Terry Lee. Most of you know Tony, who is an author and creator of Encounter Coaching, master coach trainer, and Terry Lee is also a facilitator of leadership metaformation workshops and courses. So Tony's agreed to do a live demonstration of encounter coaching. It's unrehearsed. And so that's our focus tonight. Rather than explain what encounter coaching is, we want to just model it for you to show it how it's done. So this is unrehearsed. So at this time, I just want to give just a few instructions, and that would be to mute yourself. If you're not muted, there's quite a number of people on the call. Tony's going to do one coaching demonstration, and at the end, we'll take a few questions or comments. So if you have a pencil, paper, jot down what you see, any questions that you have, and save those for the end.
Yeah.
If there's time, we're going to have another spontaneous demonstration from a volunteer. So, Tony, do you have any other comments that you want to make?
Spontaneous demonstration, meaning I coach you, not we pick one of you to coach.
Right.
I'll give you a 30-second intro to encounter coaching if you're not familiar with that term. Normally, when you coach, you start with a problem or something the person wants to get done. You know, I have this goal, I have this dream, I want to find my destiny. With encounter coaching, we start with an emotion because emotions are the quickest way to get to your heart. And the idea is if something changes in your heart, it will percolate upward and change your behavior without having to do all this discipline stuff, which I would rather not do. Discipline is good, but discipline works best when your heart is aligned with what you're trying to discipline yourself to do. If your heart is going one way and your discipline is going the other, you'll probably fail. So, and the encounter part of it is the guts of the coaching conversation as we get down to the root. What's the desire that's driving your behavior? And the theory is your desires for things like fulfillment, significance, safety, security, belonging, those are designed to be filled in your relationship with God. And we can experience that. We can take our client through having an experience where God fills that very quickly. And then the thing that they were trying to do to get their desire, now they don't need the desire anymore. So I'm free to really choose the best course of action instead of being forced to do the thing to fill the hole in my heart. So I'm going to have Angie just give us, since we start with emotion, we'll just have her give me an emotion in the situation. And one of the really cool things about encounter coaching is you don't need to know the backstory. So one thing you'll find is that this progresses pretty quickly down to the heart. So Angie, what's the emotional thing that you want to be coached around?
Well, today I've been a little fed up and like annoyed. And so it'd be good to dig down a little bit and understand those emotions.
Okay. And just give us 30 seconds of what's the situation you're annoyed in.
Yes. A puppy showed up at our house like a month and a half ago,
Uh-huh.
and so wasn't expecting a new addition. And trying to find training collars and underground like fence collars, and I've tried multiple ones, and I thought I had found one today and it's not working, so I'm really frustrated with this process.
Okay. So what was the moment in this where you were most annoyed?
I was walking the property trying to find the where it was gonna like beep so that she wouldn't leave our property.
Okay. All right.
And
So what I
yes.
want to have you do is put yourself back in that moment.
Okay.
You're visualize it. You're walking the property. You're trying to find the place where it's going to beep. Feel the annoyance,
Hmm.
and just tell me for a minute, what are you feeling?
I'm feeling very fed up with the process of trying to get get a solution for this new puppy in our life.
Okay. Can you give me some more emotion words?
um
Irritated, angry, frustrated, that kind of thing.
yes, all of those. Angry. My sister called and I was like, I'm done. I want to get rid of this dog. So very frustrated at the situation. Yeah, very, I think even angry, fed up, all of those go right in line with this.
Okay. So of the irritated, fed up, annoyed, frustrated, what's the strongest emotion there?
I would say probably fed up.
Okay. So now we're going to allow you to not be a Christian for the next 60 seconds.
Oh gosh,
So
yeah.
if you were going to respond purely out of that emotion, you can say any bad word you want to say. You can do something that you normally wouldn't do. If you were just going to respond to the emotion, what would you do or say?
Well, I had a few choice words for the device, and I really wanted to throw it and just to be done with it and call somebody and say, "Do you want this dog?" Like, I'm totally fed up with it, this situation. So if I'd had the number to call the people about the device, they might have gotten an earful.
Okay. So if let's say you had that number and you called them and the president of the company
Mhm.
answered and you got to give him an earful about his device, what would that give your heart?
Oh, I would hope like some relief, but I don't know if it would. Um, um,
But tell you what, let's go back to the other one. What if you were able to take your device and throw it out
Yeah.
into the woods and the problem would just disappear? What would that give your heart?
oh, that would help, I think, this situation. But I think it's probably more about the dog. Even just thinking
Okay.
about this,
Okay.
the device is just the added layer of it. It's
Okay.
probably about the dog and just figuring out how to train her.
So if you were able to respond with what your emotions want to do with the dog, what would that be?
Oh goodness. Unfortunately, I would want to just get rid of her and be done. Like,
Okay.
it's such a handful.
Okay.
New puppies are a lot, and so
Yeah.
I have prayed for God to help me to like her today.
Okay. So if you were able to just get rid of the dog and not feel bad about it and the problem would go away,
Yeah.
what desire does that give your heart?
Peace.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it definitely is like just a peaceful sense that yes, I think that would be something that I know that's not well, yeah, it would
Okay.
be a peaceful situation.
Okay. Are there any other desires that go with that for comfort, for safety, for
Yeah.
being seen, Or is peace the biggie?
I think peace is the one that's sticking out right now. And it might be like comfort, just like, okay, there's a peace in the house again. It can be comfortable. Like I'm not constantly having to work with her, and I work from home, so that makes it even worse because I'm like with her constantly.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I'll
think
ask one more just sharpening question here. And if there's peace in your house, what does that give you that your heart longs for?
yeah. I think probably maybe security and I don't know, the word balance is coming to mind, but I don't, yeah, that's not.
Okay. All right. Well, of peace or security, which feels biggest?
I think peace.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to treat this like I'm coaching someone who doesn't know this process, even though she does. So would you be willing to take this to Jesus for a minute and hear him speak to you about peace and how he wants to give it to you?
Yes.
Okay. So this is real easy. I'll give you a question to ask him, and you just take 30 seconds and listen. And then whatever comes into your heart, your mind, whatever you hear or see or sense, tell me afterward and we'll talk about it. So, question for peace. So Jesus, I got to think of my question here. Peace is one of the harder ones.
Yeah, sorry.
So Jesus, what's your peace in heaven like that you want to share a little chunk of with me today?
Okay. Jesus. I'm just going to repeat it. What is your peace in heaven look like that you want to share a part of that with me today? I immediately just I saw a stream of water and there was a bench beside it, and it's just like offering a moment of peace with him to come and sit and relax and rest.
Okay.
It was very, very like serene and it's nice.
Okay. So take the invitation and sit on that bench for a minute and just let yourself experience it.
Mm.
So what's happening inside you as you do that?
There's a calmness that's coming over me, like that I haven't had in a while. Um,
Okay.
I think just a rest to even my mind of
Okay. So go back to the bench for one more minute, and this time Jesus sits down next to you.
Mhm.
What's he say or do when he's there next to you?
He just takes my hand and I lay my head on his shoulder, and he actually is talking about how it's been a while since I've experienced this, and he's happy that I'm here and that we can do this together.
Yeah. So why don't you ask him, so Jesus, where's this place of peace in my life that I can go to and sit on the bench with you when the puppy gets frustrating?
Yeah. Jesus, where does this I go in life when it gets frustrating? There's actually a a creek that runs through my property, and so I even just thinking about like going out there with a chair, or there's a rock wall that's pretty somewhat close to it, and so it's like even just going there and taking a moment to just unplug for a moment, get out of the house um and be by the water. And it's when it's even though it's moving, there's a peacefulness to it. And so I think that can be a very maybe a place I haven't tapped into that is very, very close.
Good. I'm curious, is there anything that has stopped you from doing that, or is there any kind of mental, I'm wasting time, or I don't know what it would be for you, but is there anything that stops you from going to that place of peace?
Mm. Oh, I'm sure it's my drive to do and accomplish things every day. It seems like there's always something to do, and so that would definitely be the thing that would stop me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's ask him this. So Jesus, what am I accomplishing when I go out there and sit on that wall with you?
Mm. Just what am I accomplishing? Nothing in the nothing in the like physical.
Mhm.
But in the spiritual, there's
Let me tell you what, let me sharpen the question a little bit. Jesus, how do you feel when you get the chance to sit on that wall with me? What does it do for you?
Jesus, what does it do for you when I sit on the wall? I think what I'm sensing is it's such an opportunity to like he's saying, it's such an opportunity to just connect. And like before you asked the question, it was like there was just like this jumping from in a good way, like an excited jump, like to that place, to get there. And so just taking that opportunity, like that word opportunity is what I'm hearing, and like just that excitement from him
Right.
to meet there.
So does that sense of his excitement, does that give you enough to overcome the internal, I got to be doing something, or is that still going to be a fight?
I think it'll be a fight because that's just my
Mhm.
one of my strengths is like accomplishing and being a finisher to things. And so um but um but I also like the thought of even in the midst of everything happening, that there's still that excitement to get away, that like it doesn't have to it's not all about just the doing and the accomplishing that gets things done.
Right. So let's come back as we sort of go back out of the desire realm. Let's come back to the dog. Does this conversation change anything about the puppy? I mean, in terms
Go
of your
outside, Mark.
internal,
No.
you still want to throw it out the window?
No. Uh, it does. I feel even like with this situation, like there is more of a peace in my spirit um, with it that I did not have before we started this conversation.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea would be the thing that's annoying and makes you angry is the puppy's taking your peace away.
Mhm.
And so if you can find that with Jesus,
hmm Yeah.
Oh.
And I can have grace for her. But
Then the puppy can't do that to me.
yes.
Yeah.
And I can definitely have more grace for her in in the situations.
Right. So, how did you experience this conversation? What was helpful? Was there anything that was awkward or uncomfortable?
I don't think there was anything that was awkward or I think it's always helpful to dig down to what's really going on, because when there's frustration, it's always linked to something that you're missing out on. And taking those moments to understand what's really going on. Because in the grand scheme, I know it's not about the dog, even though that's the thing that is
Yeah.
frustrating the most. So I appreciate the opportunity just to dig in a little bit. It's been a while since I've done encounter coaching, so
Okay.
yeah.
So Terry, could you put up the drilling down thing? And I'll tell you quick what I did and what the technique is, and then we can do some back and forth. So the basic technique I'm using, we call drilling down to desire. And again, the idea is that most of what you do involves either gaining or protecting a desire. I'm seeing that. There we go. So we started with an emotion. You're annoyed. I asked her to give me some different words and stuff. The first thing that I did once we had the emotion was I asked her to re-experience it. So I took her back, go back to the place in the yard where you felt that. Imagine yourself on this walk again. And what I'm doing there, I want you to feel the feeling in order to activate your emotional brain. This whole process, and the biggest difference from, I'll call it traditional coaching, is traditional coaching mostly stays in the rational. Here's the goal. What are the options? What are your action steps? Et cetera. You're figuring it out. This process, we want the person to think with their emotional brain. So visualization is one of the key ways to activate your emotional brain. So I put her back into the situation, visualize it, feel it. Then when we sort of get to the guts of what the feeling is, then my question is, how do you want to respond to that feeling? And the reason we ask that question is the response is it's what you unconsciously want to do to either get your desire or protect yourself from losing it. So I want to respond by getting rid of the dog. I want to throw the device out the window. I want to get rid of the source of frustration because then I can have peace back. So that response question will point us directly to the desire. And to name the desire, I just say, okay, what would it give you if you could do that response? And then once we get to the desire, this is where the encounter technique comes in. And what I'm doing is just saying, you want peace. Let's ask Jesus to give you that peace. And I have found that this is the most easiest prayer to get an answer for quickly. Most people can hear within 30 seconds. I've had people that have claimed not to hear God speak to them for 20 years that have begun hearing through this. It takes faith to use it because you have to stand back as a coach and believe that God is going to say something to them. But anything that Jesus says to them is way more powerful than something that you say to them. So when we bring Jesus into the conversation, good things happen. Also, the part of the conversation where Jesus is talking, I just get to sit there and do nothing. And I get paid exactly the same amount for it. So in this method of coaching, you create a place of faith that lets Jesus do all the heavy lifting for you, and you just have to go along for the ride. So, Angie, is there anything else you want to add to what you said or tack on to what I was explaining there?
No, I think that was good. I'm trying to think if there's anything.
So why don't you, if you got a question or something you want to hear me explain a little more, type it into the chat. I think that'll be more efficient than with this many people. And I'll try to answer as many as I can. So after seeing that, what would you want to know? What wasn't clear about what I did? What would you want to know to try it yourself?
So Tony, do you see the first question? I can
No,
read
I
it.
can't see the.
Okay. Ryan is asking, is this
There
to
it is.
address specific one-off situations, or how do you apply what you did to help them in an ongoing fashion?
Well, okay, like, so here's a situation. I'm coaching a guy who feels stuck. His work is not significant. He's really frustrated. Doors aren't opening in front of him. What do we do with that? So what do you want? Well, I want movement. I want things to happen. I want to use my gifts. Well, what would that give you? Well, a sense of value and significance. So let's start asking Jesus about that. And on larger issues, the problem with desires is that we leak. It's not enough to hear Jesus say you're significant one time. So one of the things I'll do as an action step is help people create a pattern in their life where they're regularly hearing Jesus speak to them about this. So here are 3 questions about significance. Ask one of them every day or come up with your own. But you're feeling all this angst and God is not opening the doors for you. So clearly this is not his agenda for you to get this need filled through accomplishment right now. So how about if we try coming to him and build the pattern of finding significance in Jesus? And I think this is going to be a complete tag on from one of my pet peeves right now, but I think one of the problems that we as coaches and I myself have contributed to is encouraging people to pursue significance without encouraging them to take it to the cross. So we say, oh, let's help you find significant work. Oh, let's pursue your dreams. Oh, but those things can become a substitute for what you can get from Jesus. And if you get your heart settled right, that Jesus is my primary source, then if you do pursue your dream, you'll do it in a much more healthy way. So one of the things I'd want to encourage you to do as coaches is think about how is the cross part of my coaching? Christianity is not about being happy and feeling good and fulfilling my dreams, and that's a completely selfish agenda. We have to figure out as coaches ways to help people have an agenda for their lives that leverages that power of having a dream, but also does it in a way that my primary allegiance and my primary source is not my dream, but it's Jesus. So give me another question.
Sure. Helen says, how do you keep the person from going into the long version of their story or going off topic?
Interrupt. Hey, as a coach, what you want to do at the start is help them establish the agenda. I said, Angie, what do you want to talk about? I want to talk about this. So now my job as a coach is to help you get to where you want to go. And if this isn't helping you get to where you want to go, then I, as a coach, should interrupt the process. And when we're training, we tend to say, don't interrupt people, because we have so many bad conversational habits. But once you've mastered the thing of letting the person talk, and you're not interrupting so I can say something, or interrupting because my thoughts are more important than you, then we can learn to interrupt people to keep them on track. So.
Okay, I've got another one, Tony, from Mark and Monique. How do you work with people who have a negative experience with Jesus, or do you only work with people of faith? How do you adjust it to the varying forms of connection with Jesus?
Well, when I developed this, I set out to, a lot of what we call Christian coaching is secular coaching methodologies with a Christian value system. And so I set out to create a Christian coaching methodology. You can't do this effectively without Jesus. On the other hand, most people's issues aren't with Jesus, they're with the church. So, I mean, I'm going to ask people, do you want God to be part of the conversation? Is that important to you in any way? And if I wanted to try this with them, I'd say, hey, you know, there's this coaching technique I use where you can hear Jesus talk to you in 30 seconds. Do you want to try it? Or if, you know, Jesus is sort of weird to them, I'll say God or whatever. Jesus is pretty generous about showing up. So, yeah. We want to respect where people have boundaries, but if you said to someone, hey, you can hear God in 30 seconds, you want to try? I think a lot of people would say yes. So.
You want another question, or you want to go on?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me find one. What other questions would you ask if she didn't hear anything?
Well, my experience is it's not uncommon for when people are just starting with this technique for them to say, I didn't get anything. And my immediate response is, okay, well, what came into your mind while you were thinking about it? And then they'll say something that came into their mind and it sounds just like Jesus. The problem we have is not that we don't hear God, it's that we don't believe that we hear God. God is speaking to us all the time. And so, for instance, one of the important parts of this technique is that I will have the person verbalize back to me what they felt Jesus said. And the principle behind that is a man believes in his heart and so is justified, and confesses with his lips and so is saved. In other words, there's a solidifying effect that happens when you do something physical with what you're thinking in your head. So I'm always asking people to articulate, because it takes it out of the mushy in my head space where I can, maybe it's good and maybe I doubt it and whatever, and actually put it out there. But I rarely experience people who don't hear something. And usually when I do, the issue is that at some point along the way, they've made a decision that they don't want Jesus to talk to them. And so he's just honoring their boundaries. But yeah.
I've got a related question, Tony,
Yeah.
from Kathy, and she says, in listening prayer, the individual evaluates what is from God and what is from the evil one, society. How might that happen in encounter coaching?
Well, it also says that when you ask for a fish, you won't get a stone. So as a coach, I'm going to go on the principle of believing in the person, that they can hear God. This is something I think the church has gotten really wrong, is the average church service teaches you that you can't hear God. Somebody gets up and they choose the songs that you're going to sing. And when there's a gap in them, they tell you how you should worship. And after the worship is over, they tell you what the prayer is going to be. And you're never given a chance to actually hear Jesus speak to you. And so I'm like, I'm going to give Jesus a chance to speak to these people and believe that he can. And my experience, and again, I work almost exclusively with Christians. but they're from all kinds of different walks of life. And my experience is it's very rare that somebody hears something that's just weird. Sometimes people will say, this came into my mind, but that's not God. And they'll know what the difference is. Sometimes people will say something and it's completely not what I expect God to say. I'll think God is going to say yes, and they say he's saying no. And I'm like, okay, well, ask him about that. Why is he saying no? And usually it comes out that I was the one that was missing it. So I'm not the kind of person who, how do I say, depending on what stream of Christianity you come from, I'm never the person who gets called out when there's prophetic ministry happening. I'm not the woo-woo spiritual whatever. But I came to the place where I've realized if I believe people can hear, they will hear, because I've created an atmosphere of faith. And it was shocking how well it worked. I mean, when I started praying about desires instead of God, show me what I'm supposed to do, my percentage of answered prayer went up 1,000%. And I sort of figured out, I've spent my whole life talking about doing and where I'm supposed to be and am I right to Jesus. And what Jesus really wanted to talk about was how he loves me. And I never asked him those questions. And when I finally started, there's this gusher of all the things he wants to say to me about us. So my working theory is the thing Jesus most wants to talk about is my relationship with him. And if I just give him the chance, he's got plenty to say. So do you want to try another one, or do you want to just answer more questions? Or Jill, what's your...
I'd love to hear another demo. I know we
Okay.
got questions, but we didn't answer, and I apologize for that. But
I can
I'd
stick
love to
around
hear another
afterwards
demo.
for a bit too, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need a couple volunteers who have a recent strong emotion in the situation. So if you want to volunteer, put in the chat real quick, what's your strong emotion? In it, and it's a recent situation. And let's not make it some enormous, keep it simple. I always ask for multiple volunteers because I've had some weird experiences taking the first person that volunteers. Let's see here.
So we've got fear and excitement.
Okay. That's KO. What was the situation in a sentence?
And then, oh, there she is.
Go ahead.
In 2015-16, I bought into a program to help me develop my coaching and write my book. And it was, I think the guy had great idea and all of that, but he didn't have the character to uphold. He
Okay.
didn't have the character to carry it through. And I got
Okay,
my book written, it got burnt. Now
Okay.
I have an opportunity.
That's enough for, I'm gonna just get three people to
Okay.
explain real briefly and then we'll pick.
Okay.
So Cheryl Anderton, in 2 sentences, what's your situation?
We're going to a new church, first time in our lives. My husband and I we weren't on the same page about it. And so I'm going with faith, but I find it's only brand new. It's only been 3 or 4 weeks and I don't know if I trust these people.
Okay, that's good and fresh. Let's do that one.
Oh dear. Okay.
And we can all identify with
watch.
church
Okay.
stuff. And yeah, this is what always happens when you ask for volunteers. You pick the person and then they're like, oh my gosh.
Wait a minute. Yeah. No, it's good. I don't like this feeling.
Okay, so So where the mistrust and apprehension, what's a specific moment where you really felt that?
So, maybe 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, you're going to church. I like it, but I really liked my last church too. And I guess I'm in a room full of people I don't know. I feel like I have to get to know all these people all over again. We went to BSSM and I graduated in.
Is this like before the service or right afterward, or what moment?
When you go in and when you start in worship and you're kind of with a big other group of people.
Okay. So we're going to go to that moment and put yourself back into that place. You're there in the rows. It's right at the start of the worship. There's all these new people. Feel the apprehension. So once you felt it a bit, just describe to me, use feeling words. What are you feeling?
Am I going to invest here and you're going to let me down?
Okay. And the you there is God?
No, it's the people around me.
Okay. All right, great. Any other feelings other than mistrust, apprehension?
I think I'm tired. I'm like, do I have to do this again? Takes 2 or 3 years to get to know people. And then, yeah. Then if it's not going to work or there's going to be some new direction, or I just like to stay somewhere for a while.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Which of those is the tiredness, the apprehension, the fear of being let down? Which of those is the strongest emotion?
I think I might have a different, stronger emotion is,
okay,
do I need to be in the right church with the right people to do what God wants me to do with my life, to be in my sweet spot?
Okay. And when you think about that question, do I need to be in the right place? What's the emotion around that?
I guess, is my life not going to count for anything?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And again, give me some emotion words. Does that feel like anxiety? Does that feel like fear? Does that feel like?
It's starting, it feels a little bit like anxiety. It's starting to feel like, do I need, this sounds terrible, but do I need all of you to have to walk with God, or can I do it on my own? That's a terrible thing to say. Because I believe in the church. I've just kind of been burned a little bit lately and frustrated.
Well, I'm going to just christen you, with the holy pizza, that in this context, it's okay for you to feel that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So think that thought, do I have to be in the right place to be in my sweet spot? Feel the anxiety for a minute. Now, if you didn't have to be a Christian and you could just respond out of the emotion, what would you do?
I would probably line up a few amazing pastors that I've loved over the years and say, what the heck do I have to do right to be useful around here?
What do I have to do right? Okay. And if you were able to, think of 2 or 3 specific pastors.
Okay.
And you're standing in front of them, you ask them that question, you get the kind of response that you want. What does that give your heart?
I think a place to belong, place to be myself.
Okay. And if you had a place where you belong, does that give you anything deeper, or is that sort of the baseline?
Yeah, a place to belong, a place to be supported, a place to fall, a family.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I could come at this from another direction, but I think it sounds like you've got to the thing that's important to you. Okay. Have you felt in the past in churches that you weren't supported and didn't belong and you weren't getting that thing your heart wanted?
Some, yep.
Mhm. Okay.
The last place I thought I was, but we left. My husband wasn't comfortable, so I'm like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. Well, I got kicked out of a church once, so
Yeah. I mean, I've had like rich experiences and tough ones both.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's let's ask Jesus about that belonging, and see what he has to say.
Hey,
So Jesus, when you're fully in charge in heaven, how am I going to belong there?
Jesus, when you're fully in charge of belonging in heaven, how will
Uh,
it be for me there? Is that
yeah.
what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really don't have to worry. I can be fully myself, which is a little different sometimes.
Mhm. So Jesus, how do you feel about it when I can be fully myself?
Jesus, how do you feel about it when I can be fully myself? He said it's very good, and he laughed because he knows that I'm a little bit funny sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Ask him to tell you more about that laughter.
Tell me more about that laughter. Well, I just feel like he understands that some of the parts of who I am are kind of juxtaposed. Like I'm older, but I get along well with youth. I am really serious, but I'm also really funny and can make people laugh. So like the both end.
Yeah. Right. So let's ask him this. So Jesus, does this church have the power to take my belonging from me?
Jesus, does this church have the power to take my belonging from me?
I can come over now.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Information for you.
Mhm.
What do you want to ask him about?
I kind of like felt him pull way back to like that has nothing to do with
Oh,
my
okay.
belonging.
Oh, I see.
The church has nothing to do with my belonging to him.
Okay. So what would you want to ask him about that response? If you were going to give him another question, what would it be?
I think I would ask him kind of, I guess, if me belonging to other people, like, how does that look? Is this a good place to think about staying? Is this a safe place?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's just to comment for a moment. I try not to ask questions about what I'm supposed to do in this situation because it's not about doing, it's about
Okay.
So a question that would go to the desire would be more like, Jesus, is there any difference in how I belong to you, whether I choose to commit here or not?
Okay. Jesus, is there any difference on how I belong to you, whether I choose to commit here or not? Yeah. Of course, no. And he said that is part of the problem. Kind of that I'm asking that question.
What does he mean by saying that's part of the problem?
Belonging to people versus belonging to him, they're completely different things.
Okay. So is there something he's asking for from you in that?
I think it is to make a distinction, like a pretty big distinction.
Okay. So here's a question to get you partway there. So Jesus, if I give up to you my need to belong with people, what would you be able to give me that you can't give me now?
Okay, so Jesus, if I give you my, what is it, ability to belong to people, what would you give me that you can't give me now? Is that what you said?
You asked about the question. If I give up my need to belong with people, what can you give me that you can't give me now?
Security, total security.
Hmm. Does that feel true to your heart?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like my security shifted, and the God piece and the church piece are completely separate. But I've been merging them together, I think.
Okay. So why don't you just tell him the shift that you want to make or are making or whatever, just articulate it.
I think I would ask him, Jesus, if I hang out with these people, is that gonna, no, I don't know.
Yeah, what I'm asking you, it sounds like you came to a point of decision there. Oh, these need to be two separate things.
Okay.
And so what I'm saying is just say out loud what your decision is. It feels like there's a decision in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would say, going to this new church, if I would just speak to my heart, I would say, hey, heart, going to this new church is not going to shift your belonging with Jesus. It's not going to change your belonging with Jesus. It's not going to weaken it, and it's not going to take you off course.
What if when you went to this church, they had no power to take belonging from you, but you became a source of belonging for them?
Yeah, that would be good. There'd be nothing to prove, and just be yourself.
So I'm gonna stop here just in the interest of time. Cheryl, what was useful or significant for you in that?
I think just knowing that I can go forward with my confidence in him and be myself, and like I actually do have something to give, and if it doesn't work 2 years down the road or whatever, I'm gonna be okay, because my belonging is with him, because it's not up to them whether or not I have a close relationship with God, or whether or not I do things that he wants me to do, or hear him, or be with him, or I think somehow God and the church, your security can come from both, but you can't mix the two up,
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Last question, if you put yourself back in that, I'm going to worship and standing with all these unfamiliar people, does it feel different now?
Yeah, they just don't know me yet.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It was just so scary for some reason. So thanks for giving me I'm going to do some more praying on these things, because I feel like there's a better anchor for me. I felt a little bit like there's a lot of shift, and he's the anchor.
Yeah, and it's scary because there's something that's really important to my heart, and my heart thinks these people have the power to take it from me, and that's never going to feel good.
No. We encounter God in church, and so sometimes I think we can get mixed up, but God is God, and church is another place we encounter God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank-
I'm happy to stay around for a few more minutes if there's questions. What do you guys want to ask or comment on about that interaction?
Tony, just in the sake of if others have to jump off,
Yeah.
let's
Oh.
pause that for just a moment. Terry has a slide to put up right now. Terry, if you would do that. There are 2 opportunities. If you want to learn more and come to a workshop, there are 2 opportunities, and we're providing a discount for those for being here tonight, which is $75 off. Just a moment, it'll be, there it is. We'll send this out by email if you can't see it. But we have an in-person workshop in Frederick, Maryland, February 1st through the 3rd. It includes what you've seen tonight and more skills in encounter coaching, as well as an online opportunity, which is a module 1 of encounter coaching, and both of those are available to you. But we will send out the recording as well as information about this as well. But if you can stay on, we'll handle some chat questions.
I put the links in the chat as well.
So this
thank you,
is
Terry.
what Jill's talking about. This is the curriculum that I've been developing over the last 10 years to train people to do what I just did. So if you're interested in learning how to do this, this is a great way to get immersed in it. And the whole questions for Jesus thing, faith is best comes by being around people that have it. So you go to a workshop like this and you experience Jesus speaking to everybody for 3 days, and you'll come out of it saying, hey, I can do this. So sign up if you're interested. And I've trained a group of people over years to do this kind of thing. Terry's one of them. Terry, I don't know if Terry's going to be the trainer here, I'm guessing, but yeah.
Yes, I'm coaching the heart I am.
And Terry's great.
I think so too.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, if you have a question about the demo, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll take a few of those questions or comments.
Do you ever use the desire discovery cards? Yes. We have a deck of cards that has the different desires and emotions and things on the cards. And it's amazing how people who aren't used to talking about their emotions, when you put a card in their hand and it has 5 feeling words, it's amazing how much freer they are to talk about their emotions. Let's see, what other question should I answer? This be something I can take back to a team? Sure, that's what the training is for, to train you to do this with people. The book that most covers this is The Invitation. So if you want to read a book about this, that's the one. And The Invitation there's QR codes in it that link to videos. So the book has 4 hours of free video that come with it of me demoing the skills with different people. Is there a reason why your first question was always about heaven? I like talking about heaven. It's not always my first question, but I'm wanting people to like in this last coaching demo, the focus, she's focused on how is my belonging going to come from people. I want to help shift the focus to how is my belonging going to come from Jesus, so that I'm not dependent on these fickle people. So sometimes referencing heaven is a good way to get us out of the uncertainty of earth.
How about this one, Tony? I'm a business coach who deals with the analytical process of building a business. How might this apply?
Well, I'll give you the answer from a friend of mine who used to head the coaching program at IBM. And her thing was, we start out talking about the business and we always end up talking about family. And if we work together long enough, we always end up talking about God. So, if somebody came to me and if I was a coach and they wanted to work on their golf game, fine. I'm building a relationship where that's a positive place for you, where you're believed in. And I think the more you establish that with a client, the more they're willing to open up their heart to you in other areas. So, but, if they come to you and just want business coaching, that's what you do. Just give them business coaching. But one of my first clients was a millionaire businessman, and we were coaching all along. And then his 18-year-old son was involved in a motorcycle accident, was killed. And we didn't talk about business again for a year. So you're strategically placed in these people's lives, and God, as he wills, will send circumstances into their lives where they have a chance to meet him. And you may be the person that they talk to. I don't know.
Chris would like to review the last chart, desire. Terry, do you have the ability to put that back up, the desire chart?
You mean the wheel?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of the desire wheel is there's 16 different people that work with desires, have different numbers of them. I came up with 16, but 16 fundamental motivations that people have. Security, belonging, approval, significance, justice, being known, love, joy, worth. So one of the interesting things in coaching, if you work with someone for a while and do this kind of coaching, they'll start to find that most of their issues go back to one or two desires. I had one client for a while who always used to say, dang, we're back to significance again. So that's really common. But when the client can start to realize that, then they start to say, oh, I'm doing this because I want significance. I need to go to Jesus. And they get to where they can do it themselves. Is there a specific question about that or the wheel?
Actually, there was earlier, Tony, about Kelsey asked about if they just keep identifying the thing rather than the desire, how do you help them get to that desire?
Yeah. So most people, when they first think about desire, they think of objects or outcomes. So my desire is to have a new car. My desire is that my son would come to the Lord. Those are things in this world. The actual desire is the psychological need, the hole in your heart. So the question you ask is, okay, if your desire is for your son to come to Jesus, if that happened, what would it give your heart? And the what would it give you is the desire. And there's two ways you can ask that question. The most common is, what would it give you? The other way you can ask it is, if this didn't happen, what would it take from you? Sometimes people can identify the desire more easily by its removal. Other questions? My chat keeps disappearing.
I don't, if I missed one, Terry, let me know.
This be a good tool to train a team that aren't experienced in coaching. I think the whole, like just the questions for Jesus piece. I'd love to be in a church where every visitor who comes has someone come to them and chat with them for a while and say, one of the gifts we give in this church is everybody who comes gets to hear Jesus speak to them. Would you like that? And then they give them a question or two. I would love to see churches where people who do altar ministry use this. So when a person comes up and says, I want prayer for this, I want you to have an encounter with God and then speak it to me is what the way we've tended to learn ministry. That the ministry that would happen would be the person would say, well, let's ask Jesus to give you that. And we help them have their own encounter instead of having an encounter for them. So the questions for Jesus thing, it's very easy to teach. I can teach it in an hour. We actually sell a workshop, whole set of outlines for how to do that. But yeah, that's a great tool for people. And it reinforces the fundamental coaching value that I am believing in you and letting you set the agenda, as opposed to me speaking for you and setting the agenda for you. What else do you want to know?
There's some nice messages in here for you, Tony.
Oh,
People are glad to see you.
yeah, I sort of took a year sabbatical and didn't do much. Went to Israel for 2 months. I'm working on a coaching-based Bible study project, how to read the Bible like a human being, where there's no teaching in it. It's all questions. So about 6 months, you can look for that.
Excellent. Thank you everyone for joining tonight. It's been good. I want to say a special thank you to Cheryl and to Angie for being willing to volunteer for our demonstrations. Awesome. Thank you so much. And like I said earlier, we will send the recording out. And I just want to say good night and thank you.
Yeah, and come to one of those workshops and you'll have an experience you'll never forget. Bye.